Sports Ministry suspends Table Tennis Federation of India recognition over governance issues. Indian Olympic Association asked to form an ad hoc committee to run the sport. Parliament deadlock continues over debate on students' protest. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju has expressed frustration over the repeated disruptions. Rijiju accused the opposition of running away from a debate. He said that this was the first time he had seen a situation where the government itself was asking for discussion while the opposition was refusing to participate. This comes after Home Minister Amit Shah offered to debate the students' issue in Parliament. He also said that he would give a detailed statement at the end of the discussion. But the opposition has rejected the government's approach. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi said the opposition was not interested in listening to what he called Amit Shah's lecture. Gandhi has demanded accountability over the alleged use of pellet guns against protesting students. He said if Shah ordered the action, he was responsible, and if he did not, Gandhi argued that he was incompetent.
चर्चा करने के लिए सरकार तैयार है और चर्चा के लिए समय सुनिश्चित किया जाए और विपक्ष तैयार हो जाए। पहले तो ये यही मांग कर रहे थे, हमने हाँ बोल दिया। मेरी ओर से भी मैंने कह दिया है कि मैं किसी भी सवाल का जवाब देने के लिए संसद में तैयार हूं, मगर वो चर्चा ही नहीं होने देना चाहते। अब जनता तय करे कौन भाग रहा। मैं सदन में ही बैठूंगा, सबको सुनूंगा और सब चीजों का जवाब दूंगा। सरकार के पास छुपाने के लिए कुछ नहीं है। वो भी चर्चा करूंगा कि आपने क्यों चर्चा नहीं चाहिए।
We are not interested in listening to Mr. Amit Shah's imagination. We are not interested in him giving us a lecture or a discussion. We are interested in one simple thing. And when I say we, I mean the younger generation of this country. Who shot those students? Who gave the order to shoot those students? Who blinded one of the students? Who shot one of the students in the ear? Who gave the order to beat the students with lathis, with nails? Did Mr. Amit Shah give this order to shoot our children? Or did he not? If he did, he should resign because he's culpable. And if he did not, he should resign because he's incompetent.
So with the parliament facing another washout, the big question is, will the government and opposition finally agree to a debate? And who is running away from the debate? Let me straight away go to Chitra Batam, Congress spokesperson. Madam, if the Congress wants a debate, then why aren't we having a debate in the parliament? If Congress wants accountability from, Namaste, if Congress wants accountability from Home Minister, then then he should be allowed to speak.
Who's stopping the Home Minister to speak? The very fact that neither the Prime Minister nor the Home Minister have an iota of guts to even come into the House for the past 20 days, since 28 July, the beginning of this monsoon session, and the day that they brutally attacked our students, they know what they are responsible for, and that is why they are just giving media bites, but they do not have any guts to come and respond to the people and to the youth, younger generation of this nation as to why did they take that respective action against them. So we are not stopping them. They don't have the guts. They are the ones who have run away.
But Chitra, the BJP is saying that Home Minister is ready for a debate. You can have it today at 3, you can have it tomorrow at 3. Then how come you're not letting the Home Minister speak? That is the argument of Bharatiya Janata Party.
Karthike, let me just reiterate it very clearly to you. As my leader of opposition, Shri Rahul Ji, has said that we are not interested in any of the lectures. What's there to debate for? We are just interested in knowing whether he ordered that particular thing, the brutal attack, or not. If he has done it, then he is culpable, and if he is not, then he is incompetent. So I think, there is no need for any gimmicks to happen in the floor of the House. All we need is a clear answer that whether he ordered or he did not. That's all we want.
Mukesh Tyagi, spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party, also joins me. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. Chitra just said that they want an explanation, not in debate.
Actually, they are so grossly confused. I find it extremely laughable argument by Rahul Gandhi. He has become leader of opposition, but I think he wants to be extra constitutional power. He wants to write the rules for the parliament. He wants parliament to run at his arbitrary and whims and fancies. I mean, when Home Minister is saying that I'm prepared to give full day, and you can even extend the time in case your questions are not answered, then he should have come forward and taken the debate from Mr. Amit Shah. Why he's talking absolute outside the parliament? I think his intentions are very malafide. He does not want to get exposed because today Ranchi issue is also, they are part of the JMM government, and they are scared of, like, once they start throwing stones at us, they will have many cobwebs in the cupboard. So they are scared of facing the Amit Shah ji. And Amit Shah ji is coming fully prepared. And Kiren Rijiju, Kartike, met, I think, a few days back with Rahul Gandhi, had a 50 minutes meeting where K.C. Venugopal was there, Priyanka Gandhi was there. He reiterated that, yes, we are willing to face you. No, he wants Amit Shah's resignation. That is his only, जैसे बच्चे हट करते हैं ना कि मुझे चांद चाहिए. There is no parliamentary decorum. He does not come out with any shadow legislation.
Are you saying कांग्रेस कतरा रही है?
बिल्कुल कतरा रही है क्योंकि कांग्रेस के अभी खरपच्चे उड़ जाएंगे अगर पार्लियामेंट में जाते. Now Rahul Gandhi does not know how to defend Ranchi. First, let him go and ask the resignation from the Chief Minister of Jharkhand, since he's a part of the coalition. And there are many cobwebs in the cupboard. Rajasthan, many Congress-ruled states where the paper leak happened. Then why does he follow double standard? Let him go and ask the first. Let him show the moral authority that I've asked the chief ministers to resign. Let him protest. He's not doing all those kind of things. So their intention is very, very politically malafide. They just want to pin down. They've secured the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Now they are feeling very, very encouraged. And there is, I think, some kind of a surrogate motive, which is foreign nationals are influencing them. There is a whole lot of, I think, very divisive design which Rahul Gandhi is embarking upon.
Okay.
And I think Rahul Gandhi should easily come to parliament. You know what is the loss per day? 5 crores.
I would like to
चित्रा जी पूरा टाइम मिलेगा आपको, चिंता मत करिए, पूरा टाइम मिलेगा. Mukesh, are you done? Then can I go to Chitra?
Kartike, I'm always trying to say this is taxpayers' money. And you know the kind of colossal money which we are losing as a result of the parliament completely paralyzed by Rahul Gandhi. Look at the track record of Rahul Gandhi. He is not a serious politician, and he just wants to make he's a leader of cacophony, not the opposition. He should be impeached, and he should pay the damages because it's the taxpayers' money.
Okay.
And the parliament has been completely paralyzed by him, and he does not want to face Amit Shah ji now. So it's a completely like surrender.
Okay.
He only wants him
Point
to
taken.
resign.
Okay. चित्रा जी आप बोलिए, कतरा रहे हैं कि आप लोग एक व्यापक चर्चा से संसद के लिए, और बाकी सुमोटो आप तो बोल सकती हैं, आपने सुना होगा उनको.
कोई कतरा नहीं रहा है. कतराने वाले कार्तिकेय जी कतराने वाले अपने चेंबर्स में बैठते हैं. कहाँ बैठते हैं ये आपने पवन खेड़ा जी का सुना होगा वक्तव्य. मैं यहाँ पे ये कहना चाहूंगी, हम तो सबके सामने आके बात कर रहे हैं और फिर भी आप हमें बोल रहे हैं कि कतरा रहे. अरे हम तो डिमांड कर रहे हैं. तो कर रहे हैं ना मुकेश जी. मैं आपके बीच में नहीं बोली थी, तो कृपया करके आप भी मेरे बीच में ना बोले. थोड़ा धैर्य रखिए. कर रहे हैं डिमांड हम अमित शाह.
मुकेश जी आपका बिल्कुल मैं जान ही रखे हैं, उनको खत्म करने दीजिए. नहीं तो ऐसा होता है ना कि सारे आरोप, मुकेश जी सारे आरोप एंकर पे ही लग जाते हैं कि भेदभाव कर रहा है. बोलने दीजिए उनको एक बार.
अहंकार मत दिखाइए. यहाँ पे अहंकार मत दिखाइए. Don't show your arrogance over here. Don't show your
चित्रा जी बताइए.
Show your guts in the parliament. Since 1952, Kartikeya ji, since 1952, this is the first time that has happened that in the entire session, neither the Prime Minister nor the Home Minister had the guts to step foot in the house of the parliament. They are so scared, and you are telling us what nonsense you are talking about. The entire nation is listening to you. Who has done that brutal attack on our students, on the future of this country? It is you. Shouldn't you be made accountable for that? Of course you would be made accountable for that. So we demand Amit Shah's resignation, and we wholeheartedly would want to have it.
Okay.
Do whatever you want to do it. You can speak any nonsense about the leaders of opposition, but all I am saying is, have Narendra Modi and Amit Shah the guts to step foot in come into the parliament.
मुकेश जी, अब आप रिस्पॉन्ड कीजिए.
देखिए, she is avoiding completely answer of my question. Why Rahul Gandhi is not facing? If he is a leader of opposition, he needs to adhere to parliamentary procedures. When Home Minister himself has come forward, given a written letter to Speaker of the Lok Sabha that I am willing to have an exhaustive debate, why don't he come forward? Why he's saying I will not listen to his lectures? Now he's saying I will not listen to his lecture. This is the way a serious parliamentary reply to the parliament procedures. Is it not a very childish? I'm asking you, Karthike, what is left? I mean, this is the last
Parliament
day
must
for the
function.
parliament.
I always say this, whether it's BJP or Congress, Parliament must function. I have covered Parliament for 20 years. Parliament should function.
So why
Chalna chahiye.
there is no answer to that? Why you are not squarely replying? Why Rahul Gandhi is avoiding facing Amit Shah ji on the floor of the Parliament? You are not answering to that. You are talking here and there. You are not touching the. You want to listen to the answer.
Rahul goes to the house every day.
No,
Rahul
you are
goes
not.
to the-
You
Rahul
are running away.
Rahul
Rahul
goes
Gandhi
to the
runs
house
आपके
for
पास
the
आऊंगा.
government.
चित्रा जी,
It is Amit Shah
चित्रा जी,
ji who is scared.
चित्रा जी,
And
चित्रा जी, I'll come to
He's
you.
the one who's sitting in the
Rahul
chamber.
Gandhi-
चित्रा जी, I'll come to
He's
you.
the one who's sitting in the
चित्रा जी,
chamber.
you know,
Mukesh Tyagi ji,
चित्रा जी,
please ask Amit Shah
चित्रा
to
जी,
come to the
अरे
house.
आप पे जवाब है
Please
नहीं.
ask
चित्रा जी,
Amit
can I
Shah to
tell you
come
one
to the
thing?
house.
चित्रा जी,
Please ask Narendra Modi
can I
to
tell
come
you
to the
one thing? You
house.
know, all of this,
Non-serious
all of
person
this,
person
all of
है.
this
They have
sort
no
of
answer.
conversation, people make fun of it on internet. We should not do this. Past 30 days have taught me this. 25 years in this profession. मुकेश जी अपनी
People
बात
are
कंप्लीट
making fun
कीजिए.
of Narendra
फिर चित्रा जी,
Modi and the
चित्रा जी
manner
मैं
in
प्रोग्राम
which
बंद
he's
नहीं
making
करूंगा.
Instagram reels.
बंद नहीं करूंगा चित्रा जी.
So, let's
चित्रा
not-
जी
let's
नहीं
not
don't
get into
please
that.
don't pontificate on me. I'm just saying let him complete and I will not disturb you for a second. That's all I'm saying. Nothing else.
Karthike, the substantive essence of this entire deliberation and debate today is that Amit Shah ji has very squarely made verbal and written statement to the speaker, and he's willing to face entire brigade of opposition to come and raise any question they have in mind. Why they are not coming forward? It is the central point, and they have no answer. They are coming out with very childish response, which is not a response of a serious parliamentarian.
Okay.
I think Rahul Gandhi should be paying damages for the losses taxpayers have suffered because he is deliberately sabotaging and paralyzing the parliament. And neither
वैसे एक
Congress
चीज मुकेश जी
spokesperson-
आपसे भी बोलूंगा. Long time
जी.
back in 2009 when BJP was stalling the parliament, it was an off the record briefing. The man is no more, but he taught me something. Arun Jaitley ji said opposition must have its way and the government should have its say. Say तो आपके पास है, but the opposition must have its say. You have the way.
But is Amit Shah avoiding the discussion? He's
I'm
making
just
a
saying they will have the
so why
say.
they are not coming
You will
forward?
have the
Why-
way.
No, why they are not coming forward? I mean, we fully agree. Like Rahul Gandhi does not have basically parliamentary sense. He tore apart
Okay.
the ordinance passed by Manmohan Singh government. He does not believe, he believes in anarchy. Somehow he is planning to become a Gen Z leader.
Okay.
And he has got a divisive and
Let's not
designs
be
against country.
मतलब you are
I'm
calling
very sure,
LOP
because we
a
might-
leader of opposition an anarchist, sir.
No, anarchist obviously, if Home Minister is making a statement and he is not coming
No,
forward.
I
to
agree
face
with
it
you.
in the
Home Minister
parliament.
should be allowed to speak. There is no disagreement with you. चित्रा जी तो शुरू में बहस इसी बात पे हुई कि होम मिनिस्टर को बोलने का
But
अधिकार होना
they will
चाहिए.
come-
But Chitra, let me go to Chitra ji. You have said a lot of things on Chitra ji's leader. Madam, I told you I'll not disturb you.
See, but yeah, that's what I'm saying, you know. I am not as ill-mannered as the BJP spokesperson to comment anything on Narendra Modi. Even I have huge words. We all know the kind of vocabulary that the Gen Z has used for Narendra Modi ji or Amit Shah ji, and yet I very respectfully ask them, because they are the Prime Minister and the Home Minister of this beautiful nation. So I am very respectfully asking them, shouldn't they apologize? Shouldn't they be accountable for the brutal attack that they leave it upon on our generation, on a younger generation? So I think because Mr. Mukesh Tyagi, you should learn something from Rahul Gandhi ji as to, you know, how to run the parliament.
Thank you.
That is up to the government and that is not up to the
Okay.
opposition.
Thanks for the
So
pulse
we
of
have
wisdom.
we have very pertinent questions. Yes, you should learn something from the opposition. You
Okay.
should learn from the opposition. You hear it clearly.
Oh,
The
thank you
manner
so
in which
much.
we used to run the parliament after
Save
being
me
stalled
from
even
horror.
for 17 days also. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Save me
So
from
that's
horror.
why
I didn't
I'm
disturb you.
challenging you. If you think that you are going to talk any nonsense about Rahul.
Okay, thank you. I really thank both of you. I hope Parliament functions tomorrow and we
I
get to
couldn't
listen
hear you
what
once
happened
again.
on that fateful day. What happened on fateful day, because if the Parliament is not extended, then in all probability it's going to get cyanidized tomorrow. That's what these sources are saying. I thank you, Mukesh ji. I thank you, Chitra ji, for joining me. I hope
Thank you, sir.
this, the civility we maintained on our conversation continues like this. So this was on point one. And I really hope to my viewers that, we get to hear the Chief, Home Minister speak in Parliament, and we also get to hear members of opposition ask him questions. I think that's where the beauty of democracy would be. He gets to speak and the members of opposition gets to ask him questions. Now, let's move our focus to something which is very close to future India, healthcare, affordability crisis. And a parliamentary panel has highlighted a stark gap between overcrowded hospitals and private healthcare, because India's healthcare system is facing a serious affordability and accessibility challenge. The Parliamentary Standing Committee report presents a stark picture of two very different healthcare systems. On one side is an underfunded, overcrowded public healthcare system. On the other is a large private sector where treatment costs can vary sharply and remain difficult for patients to predict. One of the biggest concerns is the shortage of public hospital beds. Government facilities have just 0.79 beds per 1,000 people. Public health spending is also around 1.43% of GDP, below the National Health Policy target of 2.5%. The funding imbalance adds to the problem. While primary healthcare receives the largest share of public health funds, secondary and tertiary cases remain relatively underfunded. This can push patients towards private hospitals, and that is where the affordability gap becomes particularly stark. According to the report, average hospitalization in a private facility costs around 50,508 rupees, compared with just 6,631 in public hospitals. That is a massive difference for families already struggling with medical expenses. The panel has also flagged unstandardized pricing, particularly room charges, and the large number of smaller clinics and diagnostic centers operating outside a strong monitoring framework. Another concern is insurance coverage. Existing schemes focus largely on hospitalization, while patients continue to face significant out-of-pocket expenses for medicines, diagnostics, outpatient treatment, and long-term care. The committee has therefore recommended several major changes. These include regulating private hospital tariffs, standardizing costs for common procedures and diagnostics, expanding Jan Aushadhi Kendras, and introducing insurance options covering outpatient care and medicines. It has also called for stronger healthcare infrastructure, patient facilitation desks, and a review of the GST framework for medical devices and healthcare services. At the heart of the report is a larger question: how can India make healthcare not just available, but genuinely affordable for every citizen? On this issue, I'm joined by Dr. Sunila Garg, advisor ICMR. Madam, my question to you is, how do we address this issue? Healthcare has expanded, but it has become very, very costly, madam. How do we deal with a costly healthcare system?
Can you please repeat the question? I was not able to hear you.
How do we deal with a very costly healthcare system, madam?
Definitely, it's a very, very important question, because now when we see that, there is a huge difference between a private sector and government sector. Though over a period of time, we do have, out-of-pocket expenditure which has come down. It is much below 50% now. And we do have Ayushman Arogya Mandirs, which have got, the level of tests and all that. So over a period of time, we have to aim at universal health coverage. That means we do have to reach the last mile. We have recently created 1,85,000 Ayushman Arogya Mandirs coming out of sub-centers and primary health centers. But another important part is also, you need to see that even community health centers have been upgraded, where we are providing facilities for trauma care and all, and there the presence of specialists is there. Recently, a task force was also formed, which is aiming at creation of or strengthening of the departments of family medicine across the country, where we can have these family medicine specialists across the level of right from primary to secondary to tertiary level. And that means, basically at least at every district level, we must have, care which is adequately provided, so that we can reduce the number of footfalls. At the same time, there is a need to, not only the quality of care, but also we have to see from the private perspective. Because I remember, during COVID time when I was actually involved, in the whole business, we could see the variation in COVID vaccine. We could see, across different facilities, the cost was varying. So, and including the vaccinations that which is available at the private sector, we have to see that we need to standardize the costs which is available so that people do not have to pay so much out of their expenditures, and we need to promote our Jan Aushadhi Kendras and all, and we need to promote more of generic medicines, of course, with more quality control. So that, we need to see that, because when I used to get for our departments for rural urban centers and all that, so quality was a major issue. So, and also at that time it was flagged out that this batch is not good and we need to remove that. So it is important to look at that. And also from the public sector point of view, you rightly pointed out that we have to, increase the bed population ratio also. And plus, as has been pointed out by National Health Policy also 2017, when we talk of that, that is important. We need to spend much more with regard to
Doctor,
GDP.
can I ask you, why is this so much of people now in jokingly say, hospital ka bed 5-star hotel ke bed se zyada महंगा hai?
So that is where I am telling you. So we should not be looking at, there has to be average pricing kind of a thing which we need to work out. Because the hospitals may provide 5-star facilities, clean, good, transparent, information has got to be there. But first important point is transparency. Second is accessibility, availability, and quality of care. So quality of care also needs to be kind of factored into while we are providing the services. But we need to look at exactly, that we should standardize the rates. It is not that, the rates are different. And there's a huge difference you will realize between the private room, between the, semi-private room and the common room. Because if you're in a private room, accordingly the cost of doctor, accordingly the cost of medicines or the laboratory investigations, everything goes on increasing. So somewhere we need to kind of flag off these issues, and we need to see that, and we should use as much as generic medicines as much required, and we must be rationalistic in our approach that these investigations are required. So that is important. Rational use of drugs have got to be there, because India is also sitting on a time bomb of antimicrobial resistance. So that is important, but we have to see that, we do not believe, we should believe in continuum of care rather than fragmented this thing. Because if, also we need to say that we have got lot of standalone practitioners and all, where, the person gets lost, because for something he goes to this, for another thing he goes to, it's something called as doctor shopping. So I feel that it is very important to standardize these issues so that, we are able to kind of, provide accessible and affordable care to all, because people will like to go, it's not necessary that nobody will go.
Madam, I am also joined by Dr. Venkatesh Rao. Sir, am I audible to you, Dr. Rao?
Yes, yes.
Dr. Rao, we were discussing that private medical care has become very, very costly. Either you are covered by the government of India, but that is in a minuscule way. Or if you want some high-end intervention, it's completely out of bound for a middle-class person. It can actually financially ruin you. What can be done to bridge the gap between availability and affordability? Dr. Rao. I think, Dr. Garg, can you take that question?
Yeah. As I said that, what can be done to provide availability and affordability? First of all, as I said, we need to look at the standardized package of costs. That is there when we talk of routine medical procedures and all that, that is important. Because I have seen many families, right from now, it is over 4 decades when I'm being there in this sector, medical care sector. But, and also from a public health background, I see many families, they are impoverished. So that is where we need to regulate the prices. That is important. We need to promote generic medicines with quality control. That is important part. We need to also see that, profit is one aspect of it. and also I will see that, basically when we are looking at that part, there cannot be, so much of difference that means 15 times more. When we are talking of, 6,000 and 15 times more than the private cost. So that issue needs to be flagged off, because, we need to also see that how much is the quality control in our, why a person wants to go to private sector. That is also an every issue of concern, because most of our people, if you ask them, you see, private sector is also, people like to go to private sector even if they are standalone practitioners, physicians, pediatricians, or
Because it pays them more? It pays them better?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Basically, one important part is that it is also, you see, as I said, when I was talking of quality of care, suppose you go to a standalone practitioner or to a hospital and all that, the doctor gives you time, because there is, you see, not only the money part, but it is also the quantum of patients. That is important. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to see from the, and which has been proved from exit interviews and all that, that the patient comes out satisfied. But at the same time, when I was working at Maulana Azad Medical College, having thousands of footfall every day, it becomes very difficult for the doctor also to provide that much amount of time. And also then again for the patient to, they are losing on their daily wages and all. It's not easy to go to a hospital which is so very overcrowded. There is a cost to being, having a free treatment and all that.
Okay.
But one day you go for checkup, second day for investigation, then you get time over 6 months and all. People will say, itna time lagta hai. So that is also another important part which we have to see.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, for explaining as to why this has happened. India is has a huge population, and in coming years, we will have an old population also. And I think that's where we need to really buffer up our efforts in private sector, which is making good advances, but to make it affordable for the poor people. And when it comes to public sector, to make it better for a lot of underprivileged people to get care, because they will not be able to afford those private sector hospitals. So I think sort of a twin approach is required to cater to the need of a changing India. Thank you for joining me for the On Point 2, and to my viewers, don't go away. After a short break, I'll be back. I interviewed Baijant Panda, the Vice President of Bharatiya Janata Party, 5-time MP. He is bringing a bill to the Parliament on child safety and how it should be regulated. After a short break.
Dear Bestie, how can I thank you? They say the truest friendships cannot be manufactured. They simply unfold naturally. How true that is for us, Bestie. Love from Bestie Collection. Natural diamond bracelets for you and your bestie.
Bunty, the house needs to be painted, but painting is more expensive now. So your e-bike is cancelled.
Be naya zamana. Birla Opus is giving 10% free paint. So now paint worry free.
10% free paint only with Birla Opus.
In this edition of On Point, I am joined by Baijant Panda, 5 times MP and National Vice President of Bharatiya Janata Party. And the issue is about children. An issue is about, should there be more control, more regulation, more protective environment for children when it comes to social media, and he's listed a bill in Lok Sabha. So thank you so much for making time for News 9. And let me begin by asking you, this bill has been listed, it's called the Safeguarding Healthy Internet Environments for the Little Digital Natives Shield Bill 2025.
Is a catchy name and it describes the purpose. I think it's important for legislation to have catchy names because then it captures the imagination. But beyond a catchy name, the topic itself is very important. This name came up through brainstorming. Whenever I draft any bill, I do extensive consultations with various stakeholders. So we have citizens groups, you have industry representatives, you have activists, people in the media and tech industry. Then I have a team of policy professionals with whom I brainstorm, and so that's how this comes up. But this is not only timely, it's overdue, because this bill we drafted a year ago when only one country had introduced restraints on social media for children. In the meantime, nearly 20 countries have done so, and a couple of states in India have also started taking steps. But for unfortunate reasons, the bill has not been able to be moved because of the disruptions in Parliament. But I'm glad that it is finally getting traction in the public domain, and there's lots of interest because, like I said, it's already overdue.
So why is it important for the young? What prompted you? Why is it important in the Indian context?
It's a global problem, and it is particularly important in India because as the most populous nation and one of the largest economies in the world, we have one of the world's largest cohort of internet users, social media users, and particularly youngsters. We have the world's largest number of young people, and they're most of them on the internet and social media. Now, social media is a generation old. In these last 20 or 30 years, initially it came about as a democratizing force. For example, in the media, it disintermediated media. Earlier, editors used to curate what people would read or see on television. Now, anybody has access to information. But that disintermediation process in the beginning was good. But clearly now, in hindsight, a lot of evidence has come out about social media. A, that it is addictive. And it is not accidentally addictive. The algorithms that are being implemented by the big tech companies are deliberately addictive. And this is not speculation anymore. These big tech companies have admitted as much in hearings in the US Senate and congressional hearings. More than just being addictive, that itself is bad enough. I mean, if you're addicted to any form, whether it is drugs or anything else, it's bad enough. But on top of that, these algorithms have two other very deleterious effects. One is they create a bubble in which only a particular limited viewpoint gets embellished and gets ingrained into people, and young children, young people, young teenagers are particularly susceptible to this. So the new generation grows up with the risk of not having a balanced and a wide understanding of the world, but a very narrow and very extreme opinion on various things. And the second thing is it has been misused for a variety of purposes. So, for example, again, some of these social media platforms have admitted to election interference in other countries. And India being the largest democracy in the history of humankind, this risk becomes much bigger. So it's a very, very important issue that needs regulation.
Do you think that if I go by the Australian experience, the children found a way to bypass it? Do you think regulating social media is possible? Because, it's like regulating a mobile device, and it tends to be with you. It's one thing which is your pocket, which is your purse, it's your communication device, it's your reader, it's your camera, it's so many things rolled into one. That device is a tech marvel, and in that device, 90% of your social media activity takes place.
So when something is very addictive and something is very popular, you have a point that regulations don't necessarily succeed right away in stamping everything out. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't. So for example, when it comes to adolescents and children, we do regulate so that they don't get to smoke, they don't get to have access to drink or to drugs. We regulate that young children are not allowed to drive vehicles. Does it mean that these rules never get broken? Of course, they occasionally get broken. You hear of some adolescent or juvenile illegally driving a vehicle, sometimes causing harm to other people, somebody indulging in drugs or drinking or any prohibited activity. Now, the idea is, you're right, this is ubiquitous because we have over 1 billion smartphones. Everybody has access to it. So when it is ubiquitous, it is a bigger challenge. But the problem is so bad that now nearly 20 countries are realizing that something has to be done. And you've seen a movement. Schools are now banning smartphones while children are at school. Many other institutions don't permit you to use smartphones. Like, I'm a member of Parliament. Inside the house, you cannot use smartphones or other devices because of jammers for security reasons. So for a variety of reasons, this is, as I said, it's critical that we regulate. And we are talking about young minds here. So we are talking about young teenagers whose minds and whose maturity is not yet fully shaped. And they're particularly susceptible to addictive algorithms which try to brainwash them into a particular narrow vein of thinking rather than making up their own minds.
Should there be some sort of a campaign? You are a lawmaker. Like, for example, till 60s, the tobacco lobby fought against any warning. They even funded studies which said that tobacco will not cause you lung cancer. But ultimately, there was a deja vu movement and people realized that the tobacco will cause you cancer. Very recently, in last 5 years, there is great, I would say, awareness about alcohol. You know, people would, smilingly would say, well, there is a French paradox, alcohol in moderation, but now the study says any peg you have will cause body inflammation. It will contribute to 20 cancers. So alcohol, even in moderation, is bad. So it has busted that myth of the industry that you can have it like some medicine. Do you think social media applications, which in the rules of communication, free thought and thinking, should be classified as addictive, something which can alter your personality, can have an impact on your social behavior? You use the word adolescent, and it stuck with me. It was the most talked about OTT series, and the boy who was the main protagonist was also a victim of imagining his own body and conduct through social media references.
In fact, this series, which became very popular 2 years ago, Adolescence, was a milestone, and that was one of the pegs on which I started doing a deeper dive into this topic of addiction. I'm glad that you mentioned about the addictive nature of tobacco, because among other people, I have been a long-term activist about awareness on tobacco. India has had more than 1 million people dying from tobacco misuse over the decades, and these are mostly poor people. So these warning symbols on the cigarette packages, I was part of the movement a few years ago to demand that. And it has certainly had an effect. Now, there is no longer any doubt that these algorithms behind social media are addictive. There are dozens of now peer-reviewed studies. See, 20 years ago when it was new, one only saw the benefits of social media. Now, gradually over the last 2 decades, the negative aspects have also come out. And so the studies across the world have demonstrated beyond any doubt that these algorithms are addictive. They are deliberately designed to be addictive, and they are deliberately designed to narrowly focus people's attention span, causing brainwashing rather than having a wide view of events and facts. And like I said, it's no longer in dispute because the platforms themselves have admitted under oath in congressional hearings in the US and in many other platforms that they are addictive. They have been penalized for it, and they have now been compelled to start taking corrective steps. So we are a little behind the curve. We are the most affected country because of such a large user base, especially of young users of social media. And it is now it's high time that we have to put these protections in place.
Can you tell us the details of the bill, the age you have thought of, and when you brainstormed with your team, what sort of you think that the social media applications are having an impact on children?
So that's a very good question. There are many aspects. I'll highlight some of the important ones. The cutoff that we are suggesting in this bill is 13. Now, some countries have chosen 16, some countries have chosen a little less than 13, but a consensus seemed to emerge that below 13, a child is too young to be able to judge the merits of various information being thrown at him or her, and also the addictive nature. Now we can debate it, maybe it should be 15, but 13 is what we've proposed. Now another most critical factor in the Shield bill is parental consent. So we're not saying that there should be no social media. In fact, in some of the other countries where social media platforms have been penalized and they've taken corrective action, so they've got 2 classes of social media. For example, like you ban pornography for young children. So social media can have filters controlled by parents of young children so that they don't have access to pornography. So similarly, what we are saying is, for a child to have a social media account, it should have explicit parental consent. That's number one, with certain control features. Now, many social media platforms do have control features, but there is no mandatory requirement that they can't just have an account for a child. So right now, what we are proposing is a mandatory requirement that you cannot have an account for a child without parental consent and with parents having those control features. We've also provided for penalties. Now, no law is going to work unless it has penalties, otherwise it's just an advisory. So there are penalties that we have proposed. Sometimes in making laws, we make a mistake. We have an attitude of throwing the kitchen sink at everything. So that doesn't work. In my opinion, the penalties have to be graded. Now, you can't make something criminal and arrest for minor infractions, but you should do that for serious infractions. So the proposal is to have graded penalties. A slap on the wrist for little negligent something, minor lapse. If it's a more serious lapse, then there should be a more serious penalty. But if it is a deliberate and repetitive violation of the legal requirements, then there should be serious penalties, including arrest and imprisonment.
Okay. How do you complete the circle? Because any social media regulation will also need to regulate OTT platforms. And you have now multiple OTT platforms. Some OTT platforms take content from minor OTT platforms. And you can rent a film on those OTT platforms. And OTT platforms are full of vulgarity and violence. And they are also cross-cultural in nature. Have you thought about that? Because when people said that, well, this is a generation inspired by the OTT sort of content, but this generation didn't make that OTT content. It was the older generation that made the OTT content and the younger generation consumed it.
So this is not a new issue. It is just the latest avatar of this problem. Now, a little while earlier, we were talking about violence on TV or on OTT platforms. Now, while we may have seen some violence or some profanity or semi-pornographic kind of content in OTT platforms, turn the clock back half a century. Look, remember movies in the 1970s in the West, movies like Helter Skelter, full of violence, egregious, gratuitous violence. And these issues were debated then. What is the difference? The difference is technology has made it ubiquitous. So movies had a certain reach. OTT platforms have a much larger reach because they reach hundreds of millions of people. But social media is of a different magnitude altogether. OTT platforms may reach a few 100 million people. Social media platforms reach billions of people. So I see this as different circles having some overlap. Now, yes, if OTT platforms have content which should not be easily accessed by children, of course there should be regulations. One of the debates that has been going on, that was going on for a long time in India, is why do films released in the theaters have certification for adults and for children, and OTTs didn't. Now those things are getting have got standardized. So similarly, please understand, while OTT can have similar deleterious effects on young children, they don't have that ubiquity, they don't have that interactivity. So in an OTT, if you see a scene, you can't just click on it and it takes you to more graphic versions of that same kind of content. Whereas in social media, that does happen. So I would say the following: there are certain similarities, but there are also differences. When it comes to what children should have access to, It's not a new thing. For thousands of years, we have had restrictions on what children can do and what adults can do. As an adult, you can smoke. You know it's bad for your health, but it's a choice that you make. As a child, you are not allowed to smoke at all. You shouldn't have access to it. So similarly, there is some overlap, but there have to be different classes of regulations covering these different platforms.
Coming to the last part of our conversation, you used the word electoral interference. Do you think that the social media can be used to foment social unrest by targeting impressionable minds? We have seen that in Nepal, we've seen that in Bangladesh, we saw that in Sri Lanka. One, the circulation of the news, you don't need to correct it. Second, anyone can use it. Third, it can be repurposed at any point of time. Fourth, you can deactivate it and move away from the responsibility of producing a content which can have a legal liability. So it's almost like it's an old phrase. It's like a tunnel which both East and West Germany used to spy on each other, but they knew it, they kept it. So social media is that similar funnel. But even if you look at the sort of unrest which took place at Jantar Mantar, the new generation was on Insta. So when the course correction took place, the Prime Minister went to Instagram. His releases were after 11:30 p.m. So it's like the same funnel. The problem is also there, and you need to tread that same road to go there.
You've raised a few important issues. Let me deconstruct them and take them on one at a time. First and most important, again, it is no longer a debate whether social media can be misused for election interference. It is already proven. In fact, as I said, some of the social media platforms have been exposed in hearings in other countries, and they have admitted their guilt. They have admitted their guilt that they deliberately curated information so that some people got to see only the positives of one side of an issue and didn't see the negatives of that issue, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So they have admitted that. It's no longer a hypothetical question. Number two, obviously India being the largest democracy, if democracy has been targeted, or if election interference has been targeted by social media platforms, India will not be immune to it. You've already started seeing that. It's no accident that the Prime Minister, who is demonstrably the most popular political figure in the world in terms of his followership, in terms of the response he gets, in terms of the positive ratings he gets in surveys, his page was shut down for a while. Now, there are other
mysteriously
things. I suspect not so mysterious, but there's something else. Social media platforms have got away with one caveat, that unlike people like you who are editors, who are journalists, you have a certain responsibility. If you misinform people, you can have a litigation, you can have
I'm bound by rules.
You're bound by rules. Now, social media platforms came up in the era of post-1996. There was an act in the US in the Clinton era which said they are neutral purveyors of content. They have no ability to curate the content, so they are not accountable for the content. Unlike a newspaper or a TV channel or a podcast, an editor or a journalist. Now, this has been misused because clearly the algorithms are being tuned so that they are curating content. As I said, they have admitted in congressional hearings in the US that they are twisting the information so that people are getting more of one side, less of the other side, so that their views are getting shaped accordingly. Now, let me tell you something. Somebody did a very interesting example in the recent protests that we saw in India. Now, the experiment was that several accounts were set up, I think about 100 or more, and with different kinds of avowed interest. Like some of the accounts followed politics. Some of the accounts followed politics of all sides, this party, that party. Some followed only one party. Some accounts didn't follow politics at all. They only followed cricket. Some followed only Bollywood. But every single one of these experimental accounts got bombarded with political messaging when some of these protests were happening. What does that mean? That means that social media platform algorithms were designed to escalate, to expand, and to amplify certain political messaging, even when the choices, the preferences of the account clearly state they are only interested in cricket. or they're only interested in Bollywood. They're getting political messaging. So this is, I think, eye-opening, because if social media platforms, and not if, it's now clear, are behaving like propagandists, that they have their own view and they want to amplify that view at the cost of other views and shape people's opinions, then they have to be held to the same standards as journalists, as newspapers, as TV, as print, as podcasts, and as web portals. Because you can't say that we are neutral platforms, we don't have control over the content, and yet you are controlling the content in a specific direction, and then you're saying you're not accountable. That has to change.
And lastly, the divisiveness of the social media platforms in politics has become really visible. Do we really need tighter norms on that? Because ultimately India is a multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic, multi-religious country, and if opinions tend to be cemented against each other, it really impacts our
So I have spoken and written
politic.
and on these issues for a long time. Let's be very clear. You mentioned opinions, okay? And within certain parameters, we have freedom of speech in India. And freedom of speech everywhere in the world has certain red lines. What are the red lines? In the US, for instance, which is considered as having a very free, you can say anything,
Yes.
you can say all kinds of provocative
For me,
things.
it's civility.
But no, see, so many people get offended by civility, and recently large numbers of parents have got shocked at what kind of language their adolescent children are using. So that's one category. But let me start from the other extreme. Even in the West, in a crowded movie hall, you can't scream fire because it will cause a stampede and it will cause some people to get trampled to death. Now, you have the freedom of speech, but that is considered not acceptable. Similarly, freedom of speech in many places have this restriction that you can say most things, but if your speech is intended to incite, and sometimes they say that that incitement must have a immediate, clear and present danger of violence, then it is not permitted, right? In some places, if you start burning a religious book, it may cause a riot. Now, in India, we have had a centuries-old, a millennia-old civilization, and we are shocked at the westernization and the crudity of some of these adolescents who are not even teenagers, 12, 13-year-olds. So that is one aspect of it. But we have to be very clear. So we have a debate going on in this country. Certain people are in jail facing prosecution because they advocated and incited the splitting of India, the cutting off of the chicken neck of the northeast part of India. Yes. Now, where does free speech end, and where does treason and overthrowing of the republic come into place? This argument in the old days used to have a very clear-cut idea. So when the Naxalites and left-wing extremists were bombing, kidnapping, extorting and trying to overthrow the republic, overthrow the state, some of these left-wing activists used to say, we have the freedom of speech to say whatever. But your freedom of speech did not mean that you could carry guns and bombs for them into their hideouts. Some academics got arrested because they were facilitating the supply of weapons. Now, so where does freedom of speech end, and where does overthrowing of the republic, overthrowing of the democracy kick in? And that, I think, is a very clear issue that we need debating, because that incitement into overthrowing law and order should be the red line that no freedom of speech will tolerate in any country.
Acceptable, absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you for making time for News 9.
Thank you.
fallout from the deadly ambush on the church leaders in Manipur is now rapidly escalating across the hill districts.
Unfortunately, the government has not taken appropriate action still.
Commitment to the stories that come out from Northeast, and we'll continue to cover them in depth and entirety.
News 9, in your interest.
A single street in Belfast, sudden act of violence, and within hours, a city was pulled in chaos. What began as a stabbing has now ignited nights of unrest across Northern Ireland. Fresh unrest has erupted in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir with large-scale protests. As the guns fall silent in the Iran war, Donald Trump has opened a new diplomatic front in the West Asia. Not with missiles, not with sanctions, but with a bold demand. Uganda has closed its border with the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo with immediate effect.
It all began on the internet as an online satirical political campaign.
India is also witnessing a Gen Z protest. They want the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan to resign.
पेपर जो लीक हुआ है उससे बच्चे परेशान हैं, हम भी स्टूडेंट्स ही हैं। एक स्टूडेंट की बात नहीं है, आने वाले कल और जो अभी जो चल रहा है उन सब की बात है।
Why are they here? From where are they? Who are they? Are they students?
मेरी मम्मी ने बोला है कि आना तो इस्तीफा लेके आना।
या तो आप लड़ लो या ये देश छोड़ के चले जाओ।
Here students are agitating about reforming the education system.
We do not want to make this whole protest political.
Big development. India's youth have just scored a major political win. Dharmendra Pradhan, the Union Education Minister, has submitted his resignation.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
On the show tonight, first up, aviation safety. An Air India flight plunges 300 feet suddenly. Its pilot reportedly fails a second drug test. Then you've got an Indigo aircraft that declares an emergency, complete emergency on that Chennai airport over an engine failure issue, and SpiceJet passengers face hours of cabin chaos. I mean, are safety systems being tested enough? Are our pilots going through enough scrutiny before passengers finally pay the price? Then we've got the Kaveri issue that is heating up again. Karnataka government has been asked to release 12,000 cusecs of water daily to Tamil Nadu starting 12th of August, but the state says the demand is simply too high. Tamil Nadu says it is only asking for its rightful share. So where does water sharing law end and political confrontation begin, and can they come on the same page? And finally, the Ram Mandir CEO interview, the CEO test, faith versus qualifications. Candidates were reportedly questioned not just about administration and their leadership qualifications, but about their faith, their food habits, their religious practices and personal choices. Is that right or wrong? When you're hiring an administrator, where should religious qualification end and professional merit begin? We've got 3 stories, 3 questions that deserve a closer look, all in your interest. You're watching the show with me, Kabir Naqvi. First, the top headlines. Amidst massive uproar and showdown in the Parliament, the FCRA bill has been referred to a joint parliamentary committee. Amidst uproar in the lower house of the Parliament, the report is going to be out in the first week of the winter session now. Lok Sabha Inquiry Committee indicts former Allahabad High Court Judge Yashwant Verma in the cash at home case. Panel found ex-judge's explanation for the discovery of the unaccounted cash at his official residence evasive and unsatisfactory. The Sports Ministry suspends the TTFI, the Table Tennis Federation of India, and its recognition over governance lapses and issues. The Indian Olympic Association, the IOC, has now been asked to form an ad hoc committee